Inside apartment 213, police found skulls in the refrigerator, acid vats bubbling in the corner, and Polaroids, dozens of them, capturing corpses in grotesque poses. It was July 1991 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and what investigators uncovered inside that small, one-bedroom apartment would shock the world. Human heads preserved in jars, bones, severed limbs, a shrine made of flesh and intent. His name was Jeffrey Dahmer, a soft-spoken man with glasses, a quiet neighbor, and a monster hiding in plain sight. But the horror didn't begin there. It started years earlier, long before the world noticed. This is the true story of a predator the world mistook for invisible. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in West Allis, Wisconsin in 1960, but by age 8, his family had settled in suburban Bath Township, Ohio. His childhood home, surrounded by woods, became the backdrop for his darkest fascination: the bones of dead animals. From the age of 4, Jeffrey's father recalled him being oddly thrilled by the sound of animal bones unearthed beneath their home. He began collecting roadkill, small animals, insects, bones he preserved in formaldehyde jars in a hut behind the house. He developed rituals, dissecting, preserving, even impaling skulls on stakes. His father taught him to bleach and clean bones, unwittingly reinforcing the obsession. His parents' relationship collapsed in acrimony. His mother suffered from depression. His father was emotionally distant, preoccupied with work. Their divorce in 1978 left Jeffrey adrift, isolated, neglected, without direction. At Revere High School, Dahmer was polite and quiet, even intelligent, but he self-medicated his isolation with alcohol. By age 14, he was drinking whiskey and gin during class, hiding bottles in his jacket, calling it his medicine. His grades slipped, his behavior oscillated from class clown antics to eerie emotional detachment. Behind the facade of teenage mischief lay disturbing imagination. By adolescence, he had begun imagining involving dominance and control, daydreams of rendering a stranger submissive and lifeless. He experimented with pranks like fake seizures, but his real fascination with dissection and the control of death grew darker each day. As his parents' marriage dissolved, Dahmer lost the little stability he had. Left alone in the family home after his parents split, he spiraled deeper. Academic failure, alcoholic, and crushing loneliness merged into a dangerous formula. This quiet, socially awkward boy, obsessed with bones, experimenting in solitude, medicating with alcohol, became the architect of horror. A monster was starting to take shape, one destined to haunt America's nightmares. On June 18, 1978, just 3 weeks after high school graduation, Jeffrey Dahmer picked up an 18-year-old hitchhiker named Stephen Mark Hicks, who was headed to a rock concert in Bath, Ohio. Dahmer invited him home for drinks, a decision that would forever change his life. What began as small talk and alcohol quickly turned dark. When Hicks announced he was leaving, Dahmer lost control, bludgeoning him with a dumbbell, strangling him when Hicks could not be revived. In hours, the first victim lay still in Dahmer's basement. Dahmer dissected the body behind the house, dissolving flesh in acid, crushing bones with a sledgehammer, scattering the remains in woodland behind the family home, all in a twisted bid to erase his crime. 6 weeks later, Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State University, but the DNA of alcohol had seeped into his being. He flunked every class except riflery, failed to attend lectures, and abandoned school after just 1 semester amid mounting academic collapse. At the urging of his father, Dahmer then enlisted in the U.S. Army in January 1979, training at Fort Sam Houston and later serving as a combat medic in West Germany. But his bouts of alcoholism resurfaced, culminating in his honorable discharge in March 1981 under a military alcoholism provision. After discharge, Dahmer drifted, moving to Miami, then back to his mother's and grandmother's homes in Wisconsin. He took dead-end jobs, drank heavily, and continued to collect young men he met in gay bars, while the darkness inside him festered beneath a calm exterior. Dahmer's first murder was no calculated attack. It was an accidental alchemy of loneliness, obsession, and control. But once unleashed, the darkness took root. A student, soldier, and drifter became America's most notorious. His prey unaware that in one quiet Ohio home, a predator had been unleashed. In the early 1990s, Jeffrey Dahmer moved into apartment 213 at 924 North 25th Street in Milwaukee, an unremarkable building hiding unspeakable horror. He had mastered the art of invisibility, neighborhood convenience, polite small talk, an unassuming exterior. But inside, his ritual was escalating. Dahmer began inviting young men, often marginalized, often trusting, into his home with promises of money, photography, or friendship. Young men who never knew the danger they were stepping into. He prowled gay bars and street corners, seducing his victims with the same calm, quiet facade he'd worn for decades. What happened next was a descent into ritualized brutality, attracted to corpse, dismemberment, cannibalism. He documented every detail with Polaroid photos, poses meant to dehumanize. He drilled into skulls, injected acid, experimented with making living zombies. Every act was calculated, cold, repeated across years. 17 lives ended in tragedy, but behind every number was someone who loved, someone who laughed, someone whose absence left a void. Dahmer's crimes were more than grotesque. They were tragic, preventable, and forgotten far too long by those who should have noticed. Each of Dahmer's 17 victims was a person with a name, a life, and dreams. Stephen Hicks, 18, the first victim, picked up hitchhiking to a concert in June 1978 in Ohio, described by friends as kind and fun-loving. Stephen Tuomi, 24, a quiet and artistic short-order cook. His family called him a mama's boy. Dahmer wasn't officially charged in his death due to lack of proof. James Jamie Doxtider, 14, a Native American teen who had run away from home. Described by his mother as misunderstood, he hoped for a fresh start. Richard Guerrero, 25, of Mexican descent, lived for art. Families say he babysat his niece and had a gentle spirit. Anthony Tony Sears, 26, an aspiring model from Milwaukee, upbeat and forward-looking. He'd recently received a promotion at work. Raymond Ricky Beeks, 32, also known as Raymond Smith. He left behind a 10-year-old daughter and was separated from family at times. Edward W. Smith, 28, nicknamed Chic, known for his stylish dress and aspirations of modeling. His family remembered him as respectful and loving. Ernest Miller, 22, a budding dancer from Chicago, loved singing and performing at church. His family described him as outgoing and driven. David C. Thomas, 23, father of a toddler daughter. He was a hustler who spiced up life for his family, never to return. Curtis Straughter, 18, hoping to gain his GED and attend modeling school. Worked as a nursing assistant. His mother spoke at trial about losing her only son. Errol Lindsay, 19, artistic and gentle. His sister was pregnant when he disappeared. His family remembers him for kindness and love. Anthony Tony Hughes, 31, deaf and mute, communicated through lip reading and written notes, known for his cheerful nature and close family. Conrex Synthosamphone, 14, a Laotian refugee who loved soccer and cartoons, tragically returned to Dahmer by police after escaping, then killed. Matt Turner, 20, from Flint, Michigan, aspired to model and loved life. Dahmer met him after a pride parade. Jeremiah Weinberger, 23, from Puerto Rico, worked in Chicago, neat and detail-oriented. Met Dahmer via bus ride. Oliver Lacey, 23, a bodybuilder, father of a 2-year-old daughter, engaged to be married. Last seen before a job interview. Joseph Braidhoff, 25, father of 3, moved to Milwaukee seeking work. Met Dahmer at a bus stop. These men and boys were more than victims. They were sons, friends, neighbors. Their lives were stolen in acts of cruelty and calculated obsession. On July 22, 1991, 32-year-old Tracy Edwards escaped Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment 213. Handcuffed and terrified, he flagged down police and led them straight to the door of horror. Once inside, officers could hardly process what they saw. In drawers and boxes, hundreds of Polaroids documenting dismembered bodies. In the refrigerator and freezer, human heads, 4 total, preserved in grim display. Skulls bleached, torsos bubbling in a 57-gallon acid drum, bottles of harsh chemicals and jars of organs scattered like trophies. FBI reports later confirmed over 11 victims found on site, evidence of attraction to corpse, cannibalism, brutal dismemberment. The scene appeared less a crime scene and more a macabre shrine to obsession. Word of the arrest exploded in headlines worldwide. Television networks broke in, newspapers splashed "Milwaukee Monster Caught" across front pages, and viewers recoiled in horror. What had once been a quiet West Milwaukee apartment became evidence of unspeakable evil. Polaroids used as a signature calling card. By day's end, Dahmer had confessed to 11 murders. This was just the beginning. In one cruel act, the world recognized Dahmer's monstrous scope. And Apartment 213 became forever synonymous with the darkest extremes of pathological humanity. On January 30th, 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer stood in a Milwaukee courtroom charged with 15 counts of first-degree murder. His plea, guilty, but insane. It was a crucial distinction under Wisconsin law. He had waived his right to trial for guilt by entering the plea early in January. Yet on February 15th, a jury ruled he was legally sane at the time he committed the murders. Dahmer was deemed capable of understanding the wrongfulness of his actions and resisting his urges. Inside the courtroom, Dahmer's confession came in measured tones, a cold recounting of horrors. Defense psychiatrists diagnosed him with necrophilia, borderline and schizotypal personality disorders, and alcohol dependence. They argued his compulsions overwhelmed him beyond rational control. But the prosecution's expert witness, Dr. Park Dietz, painted a different picture, describing Dahmer as articulate, rational, and chillingly methodical. Dietz testified that Dahmer kept skulls and body parts as trophies, fully aware of the risks, yet deliberate in each step. His behavior was calculated, not psychotic. The families of Dahmer's victims spoke with restrained fury and unimaginable grief. 9 relatives, many wearing picture pins, rose one by one to denounce him. One sister shouted "Satan" at Dahmer. Others trembled as they described lives shattered beyond repair. The courtroom atmosphere crackled with raw emotion as Dahmer remained stone-faced, offering only regret and acceptance. "I take all responsibility," he quietly declared. "I wanted death for myself." He insisted he sought understanding, not freedom. On February 17, 1992, Judge Lawrence Graham Jr. delivered the verdict: 15 consecutive life terms, totaling 941 years in prison. He spared Dahmer only because Wisconsin abolished the death penalty nearly 140 years earlier. 3 months later, Dahmer pled guilty to his first murder in Ohio and received a 16th life sentence. He was immediately transferred to Columbia Correctional Institution to begin his prison term. In that courtroom, the mask slipped for everyone to see. Dahmer was not insane in the legal sense. He was responsible, deliberate, and utterly devoid of empathy. His diagnoses were failures of humanity, not of law. Despite a life spent in dissection and necrophilia, he remained eerily composed. The jury found a man bereft of remorse, driven by control, not madness. Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced to a fate designed to last longer than any human life. 15 or 16 life terms in prison, a lifetime confined behind bars, while the echo of his crimes reverberated far beyond. And still, the horror of Apartment 213 was only beginning to be understood. On November 28, 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer's life and crimes came to a violent end. While assigned to clean the gym restroom at Columbia Correctional Institution, he was brutally attacked by fellow inmate Christopher Scarver. Armed with a 20-inch metal bar, Scarver beat Dahmer to death, later explaining he acted because "God told me to do it," calling Dahmer an abomination. Scarver attacked Dahmer and another inmate, Jesse Anderson, within about 20 minutes. Dahmer was pronounced dead roughly an hour later at a nearby hospital. Anderson succumbed 2 days afterward. Scarver, already serving life sentence, received 2 more life terms for the killings. Public reaction was split. Many victim families and community members expressed relief that Dahmer's reign had ended. Others, including some relatives, later mourned that he died without fully enduring justice. Milwaukee's district attorney warned against romanticizing Scarver as a folk hero. In early interviews before his death, Dahmer spoke in quiet, emotionless tones, offering a brief, chilling reflection on his crimes. He characterized them as acts of compulsion, not passion. A veteran interviewer described Dahmer as unsettlingly normal, calm, quiet, and even shy, noting his confession to fantasies of building a bone altar from his victims. Despite acknowledging full responsibility, he showed no genuine remorse. His cold clarity unnerved even professionals trained to face evil. Jeffrey Dahmer died at age 34. He served barely 3 years of his 16 life terms. What remains is a case study in failure, of systems, compassion, and awareness. His death brought closure in form, but not in impact. He escaped justice, yes, but not accountability. His death may have closed a chapter, but Dahmer's dark legacy continues to haunt institutions, communities, and the families whose lives he destroyed. Jeffrey Dahmer's case revealed deep failures, not just of one man, but of entire systems. Police departments missed red flags as victims from marginalized communities disappeared. In May 1991, neighbors found 14-year-old Konorak Sinthasomphone wandering naked and bleeding. Despite protest from bystanders, officers returned him to Dahmer, where he died soon after. Those same officers were rehired in 1994. His victims, mostly Black, Latino, or Asian men and boys, were often ignored or miscategorized by investigators. Dahmer's status as a quiet white man let him slip beneath suspicion. His case laid bare how bias and privilege can shield a predator, while the innocent remain voiceless. By the time he was arrested, 17 lives were gone. Yet the reactions to his crimes and the justice that followed sparked a nationwide reckoning. His case fueled the public's obsession with true crime, spawning documentaries, series, and debates about power, race, and oversight. He looked like anyone else, but behind the door was evil you can't unsee. One man, 17 victims, and a city haunted forever. If this story chilled you, share it. Let the world remember the victims, not the monster. Comment your thoughts below. What more must we do to catch predators before they strike? And don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories that uncover the darkness hiding in plain sight.